About 2.5 hours outside of Muscat is the town of Hamra. This is truly a tale of two cities, or a town and an old village. At the end of this video, I've added some footage of the new town, which is rather unremarkable, but I've added it so you get a sense of contrast. What you really come to see in this part of the world is the old village. Before exploring the old village, we actually climbed the top of a little hill and had some coffee and fruit and dates with some local Omanis. From the hilltop, you can look out and see the date farms surrounding us. They say the best time to visit the old village is near sundown, when the old mud buildings look their most impressive. In general, the village is abandoned. There are a few people living there, but overall you can just wander the streets at your own pace and just explore what was, I think, about a 400 to 700 year old place where people used to live. There is nothing stopping you from going in any of the buildings, well, provided that they're not inhabited. But I personally did not go into any buildings. I just poked my head in. Some of these are quite old and a bit delicate. You can see like some multiple story buildings and some smaller buildings. So it was a real village where many people lived before they picked up and decided to move a little bit further over for some more modern accommodation. As you can see from here, when we were there, it was pretty empty, so you could take your time, explore, do whatever you like. There weren't too many tourists. I don't know if it gets very busy. It's a relatively well-known location because of the well-preserved old mud buildings, and there is an archaeology site nearby, and actually what looked like a hotel / guest house as well. So if you wanted to stay close to this area, there's the option to do that as well. It's a bit like being in a living museum, you know, the way you can just kind of walk around these old buildings with no one there, no one there to tell you don't touch. I think maybe to try and help protect it and preserve it, I wouldn't recommend, digging around in it, but, you can certainly walk around and experience it and feel how it was like to live there hundreds of years ago. It was probably a good idea to come near sunset. It does have a very atmospheric feel to it, and it's not too hot as it might be in the middle of the day, so you can take your time and just linger as opposed to rushing through it. It gives me like this pace of like an old world. It's a place to savor and not hurry through. So it was quite nice to be in such a place without a lot of tourists being around. Now, through this doorway is kind of an entrance to one of the date palm farms. I really wanted to go in and take a closer look, but I was a little bit apprehensive. I don't know if it's allowed. Probably as a tourist you could get away with it with a smile and just go in and poke around, but I didn't feel comfortable going in. You can see down there was like a little road where you can kind of walk amongst the trees. That building that we just passed, that's like I guess I'd call it like a bathing area. So you'll find these, they call them villages, which are irrigation troughs, and people will go to these little areas and they will actually cleanse themselves in there. And I think there's a better view of that later on, I hope. I think I've got a photo of that. Again, you can see the water there for the village. It's a bit eerie, you know, it's quite quiet here. But it's not spooky, it's a nice feeling. You really do feel like you've stepped back in time. Again, another view there of the date palm plantation. In the old towns, they seem to have these sort of like gateways, almost like walled cities, that you could just see in that last photo. And this is the guest house / hotel I was talking about. There were some people checking in when we were there. And now we're just walking back to the car, having spent a bit of time exploring the old town. This now then is kind of the modern Hamra. So you can see it's quite typical of what you will see in many parts of Oman, modern buildings. So very different. You know, it's quite surprising to think that just a few minutes around the corner is that old village that we had just come from. And this is what the modern town looks like. Here we're coming up to some villas, which are typical living quarters. And then obviously you can see some commercial spaces. So this is just so you can have an idea of what Oman looks like outside of the big city of Muscat, but a traditional like town in the interior. So this is it for today's visit to Hamra. If you come to Oman, I hope you paid a visit, and if you don't, I hope you appreciated seeing an old settlement and have some ideas about what different parts of the country look like. Thanks for stopping by.